Hey everybody, welcome to the patch 14.8 preview. This will include both tweets by Froxen and go over the actual changes themselves. To remind everybody, these changes will not go live for an entire week. That's right, these will go live next week, but they will not be live this week. The preview, of course, always includes changes that could be changed, could have more things added, could have more things removed. If you want to know what actually goes into the game, you're going to need to go to my actual patch note video in a week. I continuously say that because it continues to be true. As always, you guys can use this as a podcast, or you can just listen along. You don't have to actually watch, but I will be going through the changes manually. We'll be reading through it all. Some people just like to listen along though, and I like to remind people that you can just put me on your second monitor because it increases view time, ironically, to make this statement right here. The one I am in the middle of making actually does increase view time on videos, as people go, wait, I can just listen? I don't need to sit here and stare at it? Yes, that's right. You can go scroll Reddit or Twitter or Instagram on your phone while pretending to listen along. So anyway, let's go there. This is the MSI patch. This patch is therefore not being made for me, not being made for you. It is being made for people that play in MSI. Arguably, this could make MSI better. It could make MSI worse. Directly balancing the game for pro play and particularly to increase champion diversity has in the past had some negative consequences. That's one thing that I don't think a lot of people have realized. Often Riot trying to increase diversity has actually not gone the way that they've thought it would. We've often seen many champions end up near pick ban because they're trying to push them. We've often ended up with solo queue suffering immensely. That one's just gonna be obvious, right? Like solo queue always suffers because of pro play. That seems to basically always happen. But let's go through it and we'll see what's happening instead of just continuing doing an introduction. So Void Grubs. We're buffing Void Grubs this patch by buffing the damage and the number of grubs required to get the first summon spawn. We're also separating the spawn time from Dragon to make trading less of a reality and to have teams engage in more conflict. Okay, so this one has been kind of a contentious issue since Void Grubs released. So as teams get more and more efficient and they start doing more and more work, what a lot of people have done is if they can't get Dragon, they'll get Void Grubs. Now what'll typically happen is by the time one team can take Dragon, then the other team can take 2 Void Grubs, which makes the other team run in. If they're strong enough to take Dragon and you can't contest them for Dragon, they'll generally also be strong enough 20 seconds later to take the Void Grub. So what'll happen is one team will take 2 Void Grubs and then the other team will take 1. Then later on, they'll take 2 Void Grubs and the other team will take 1. So I'll only end up with 4 Void Grubs. Well, 4 Void Grubs doesn't spawn anything. So now they've given up 2 Dragons to get 4 Void Grubs, which is really not that big of an advantage. What they're trying to do here is trying to separate the spawn time from Dragon, so you don't end up just trading 2 for 1, 2 for 1 as the other team gets Dragon. They're trying to make it more of a team conflict type situation. Now this does mean that teams will have to draft more and more early game teams. That's something, if you ever wondered to yourself, man, how come in pro play teams draft such early... Oops, sorry, my bad. Hey, how come teams draft some early game team comps? Like, why does no one ever play these late game champions? Why is top lane always the giga early game champions? Why is jungle always the giga early game champions, right? Why do supports always pick the most level 1 cheesiest picks? Well, it's because of stuff like, this. If you can't fight for Dragon, you can't fight for Void Grubs, then your team's ability to win is massively reduced. So presumably all of this is just made to make Void Grubs more of a powerful objective to go for. That's it. Okay, Baron attacks. Baron attacks are a little unthreatening right now. I'm not sure I agree. If they're talking about their special attacks, sure, maybe. If they're talking about Baron itself, I've seen so many teams in pro play and in solo queue get absolutely massacred by Baron. Baron's damage has gone up over the years, which is fine, which is good, right? But it has gotten to the point where often enough, trying to do a Baron is sort of a trap unless you have a tank. And I've often seen teams just get obliterated by Baron, but we'll see here. Baron attacks are a little too unthreatening right now. Not sure I agree. They're not intended to be super threatening, as powerful Baron attacks can cause issues with games stalling out and teams being unable to take Barons. We also don't want to excessively overload players' mind share when taking Barons, but we think there's some room to make them stronger. I think they're talking about the special attacks. I think they're talking about the special attacks, like his pull and stuff like that, that don't really deal much damage. That would track, because I just said that they don't deal much damage. If the Baron special attacks deal more damage, that's fine, I guess. I wasn't really expecting them to do that much damage. When they say they don't want to excessively overload players' mind share, I guess what they mean is they don't want players like keeping track of 5 opposing champions' attacks. Well, likely 4 if you're trying to do Baron, right? 4 or less. But then you don't want them keeping track of all of that, then keeping track of Baron, which Baron it is, which attack it is, how you have to dodge it, you know, stuff like that. So I think they're saying they don't want Baron to be too complicated to where no one ever takes Baron, because it's just too complicated to take unless you're blowing out the opposing team. But they do want it to be a little bit more complicated, which, sure, I guess. I mean, the special attacks weren't really doing anything, so I guess. Skarner is doing a lot better as players play him, getting a decent amount of performance day over day. We're targeting some nerfs to bring his top and jungle closer in line. We're looking to make some adjustments to make him smoother to play while keeping the impactful feeling of the boulder. Sure. I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't really played against the new Skarner. I've been doing a Dark Souls marathon on my variety channel this patch for the last week or so. So I haven't actually played against the new Skarner. I have heard he's doing quite good though. So let's look here. What are they doing to Mr. Skarner? Mr. Skarner. Skarner. Adjusting. Mana growth. So less flat mana, more mana regen. That seems to push him more into like pushing and not so much just like spamming every ability on you. Not really sure. Q1 cast time is down. Q1 damage is down. Q mana is down. I guess, wait, no, what? We're targeting some nerfs to bring his top and jungle closer in line. We're looking to make some adjustments to make it. What? But reducing his. Okay, hold on. Huh. So it's just I don't think they're entirely doing what they think they're doing. I mean, obviously a nerf is a nerf. Going, you know, losing 20 damage and 20% AD on your Q is a nerf, right? Like that is a nerf. Q1 buff duration 3.5 to 5 still refreshes on autos E. Q2 cast relock. Okay. I think this isn't the big nerf they're pretending it is, which is rather interesting. W mana 50 to 70 to 60 80. So W mana goes up, Q mana goes down, mana pool goes down, W damage goes down. This is not the big nerf they think it is. I think they're doing something that even they don't realize they're doing. So Q1 is going from cast time 0.5 to 0.35, so you have less time to react to it. Then the lockout timer is going from 0.75 to 0.5. So his Q1 will cast quicker, and then he can Q2 quicker. And then his buff duration is longer, and he can continuously refresh it. So there's less time for you to avoid his buff duration, and there's less time for you to react to his Q1, which is now faster before he can Q2. So I guess that does make it feel smoother, but it also seemingly removes a lot of ability to react to his kit, which I guess, yeah, that does make it feel smoother. It's just, if they're intending to nerf him, damage nerfs are nerf, I'll give you that, right? But I was looking at it, Skarner's win rate top is 48.9% in Masters. That includes everybody learning the champion. So if I go to Emerald here, I can just show you guys. If I go to Emerald here real quick, right? You can see, even in Emerald, let's go to Platinum even. Let's go to lower here, okay? You can see his win rate is 48%. This is a day 1 champion. As you get up the ranks, 48.9% in diamond. Yeah, there's no way. Like, once you clear out the day 1s, dude, I promise you, there's no way that this champion is gonna be below a 52% win rate next patch. I think they're gonna have to go way harder with the nerfs. This is me just looking at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. I can just look at the numbers. I don't even need to play against the champion. I don't even need to play with the champion. I don't need to. You might say that I'm being a hypocrite here, but I don't need to. I literally don't need to. New champions should end the patch around 45% win rate, not 48, almost 49%. He will be 49% before this patch ends. I promise you that. Go look at it. Go 5 days, go look at it. Come back to this video and be like, you were right. So, I think the nerfs are going to have to be way harder than that. These nerfs are not even, including the quality of life changes, aka the buffs. Those almost might equal out the nerfs to begin with. So I don't think, boy, I don't think these nerfs are not hard enough. Mordekaiser, a pretty large change here by making his ult not QSSable. So Mordekaiser's ultimate will no longer be removed by QSS, which is a bold change. Hopefully they aren't buffing his kit in addition to that. Wink, wink. This change was originally done to prevent Mord from becoming a pro staple. As time goes on, he has too much counterplay, and especially the higher ranks and experimentally. If you're picking Mord, you want this portion of his kit to be effective. Okay, what are we doing to Mord? We're buffing his Q. Oh no, we're buffing his kit. His Q cooldown is going from 9 to 4 to 8 to 4. His E damage is losing 10. Then his R can no longer be cleansed, but still blocked by CC immunity. Okay, so this is actually a bigger change than Riot maybe realizes. His ultimate no longer being cleansable actually affects way more than you think. So this affects Rengar's W. This affects Alistar's ultimate. This obviously affects QSS. That's kind of a big deal. This still does allow you to do certain things to immune it, like Ornn's W. Kosante W. This allows you to do those things and still immune it. But removing Rengar's ability to cleanse it, removing Alistar's ability to cleanse it, this very much does make Mordekaiser's ultimate way less counterable. To do that big of a change at the exact same time that you are, buffing his Q cooldown seems a bit silly. Why buff his Q cooldown? Because here's the thing, there are some matchups in the game right now where the only hope is to either get QSS or beat the shit out of Mord early. So for example, Illaoi, for example, champions like Malphite, Set, champions like Renekton. The only thing you can do is beat the crap out of him so hard early game that he can't come back mid game with an ultimate, right? Or alternatively, to buy QSS. If you're removing the QSS option and you're buffing his early game, this means certain champions like Illaoi won't really have anything they can do into Mord anymore. I think Mordekaiser is a bit of an oddball champion here, and it's a bit weird to be doing this because, in my opinion, I think his ultimate is perhaps a bit too effective. Maybe the duration should be lowered or something. It's certainly cool and awesome for the Mord player to get an ultimate that powerful, but because it changes so much about the game and because it changes so many things, I feel like QSS was always an emergency break glass drawback they added to the champion. It certainly didn't feel good for him. Like, it wasn't fun, right, that you could QSS it, but at the same time it was always like this, like it's like Olaf's ult, right? Olaf's ult had a duration. Because it had a duration, that gave you some ways to play about it. Mord's ultimate can be QSS'd, right? Because it's QSS, you can do something. Mord's ultimate can't get QSS'd. Olaf's ultimate can't be, it no longer has a finite duration if he's hitting you. And I feel like by doing these sorts of things, you make these champions like giga counter picks to certain situations, which I definitely don't think is a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing if champions are like giga counter picks in the right situation, especially if they're supposed to be top laners, right? Top lane where you're literally trapped with another dude. Okay, I just think that this is a very weird change to make Exalt non-Q accessible, which is arguably fine, but then to also buff his Q cooldown in the early game just feels a bit odd to me, because now you're saying it's even harder to beat him early game, and at the same time you no longer can beat him late game on certain champions. Now, I'm not saying Mord is the best scaling champion in the world. He certainly scales better than he did in the past. Many champions can definitely outscale him and get into the late game and start beating him down. But, you know, I'm a little bit worried on this change because of, Azir has been too present after entering the pro meta. No, Azir has been too present after you guys are like the dumbest goddamn designers. I swear to God. I just don't understand at all anymore what happened with this champion. I'm gonna say exactly the problem here, guys, fellas. Okay, so they made Azir's his Arise proc on hits, and ever since they made it proc on hits, he's been way too good for good players. Why is that, you might be asking? Okay, so if I go look at it, we can go look. Azir's current most picked runes at Masters Plus are Fleet Footwork. Fleet Footwork is currently being picked, 40% of the time. Grasp the Undying is also being picked about 40% of the time. Now, win rates aside, that means 80% of the time, Azir is now using his W to proc on hits. Now, is his win rate super low? Yes. Unfortunately, Azir's win rate needs to be giga mega ultra low, so your average player can't even do remotely good with him because of how good he can do when good people play the champion. Unfortunately, here's the problem. Now that Azir can proc on hits at 10 billion football fields away from you, those are American measurement numbers, this means that Azir is chain procking Grasp and Dying. He's chain procking Fleet Footwork from the other end of the lane. It's pretty common for Azir to have like 100 HP bonus by the end of the laning phase, because there's just not much you can do to stop him from procking it on certain champions. This makes him way tankier, and this means he gets infinite free extra poke, free extra harass, free extra healing throughout the laning phase. Fleet Footwork is the same way. He just infinitely procs Fleet Footwork to heal on you over and over in the laning phase. Because of that, if we go look at what they're doing, his health regen has needed to go from 7 health regen all the way down to 3.5. They have literally reduced his health regen to half of what it used to be. So what we're at right here is Riot made a stupid change that destroyed his item diversity. Then, in addition to destroying his item diversity, it has also ruined his balance. Which is crazy when you think about it. It's crazy that Azir's balance has been destroyed, and his item variance has been destroyed. All for what? To make it so Nashor's actually procs on his soldiers? It's stupid. I'm exhausted by stupid changes that continue to plague the game for years, because Riot just does them. Like Riot just does a change and they're like, let's just do it, man. Don't think about the consequences, just do it, right? Like, I don't think your game balance logic should be the same as a Nike commercial where you're just saying, just do it. Great, we did it. Now what? Oh, great. Now Azir's broken and he's screwing with the game again. But man, just do it. Just do it. Just make his abilities apply on hit. Just do it. Okay. Briar, she's still too effective, especially in lower ranks. I feel like they could just copy paste this into every patch. Just every single patch, copy paste this. She's too effective, especially in the lower ranks. Briar, because I swear to God, I see this every patch. I see this every patch. I couldn't tell if they're doing a meme at this point. If I go back into other patches, if I go back into other patch previews, do they put this exact same patch note here? Because at this point, like, I feel like I'm going crazy because I have seen this before. I have seen this before. Even though her win rates are being propped up by Skirter's low ones, they're still too high. So do we do in our good pal Briar. HP growth reduction, Q cast range increase, W attack speed decrease. Shirley giving her point and click. What is it up to right now? Her point and click stun, armor shred, magic resist, shred damage ability. Shirley giving that more cast range won't be weird. Okay. Nothing more to say on Briar. Everything I've said before. So, there's not much I need to say at this point. Zach. Well, he isn't technically overpowered and really hasn't been. His laning phase is relatively uninteresting. We're looking to tap him down a bit, especially to make sure jungle is still his most powerful role. Zach, HP regen from 8 to 5. It doesn't really seem to compensate his jungling at all. All it seems to do is obliterate his top lane. Now, if you don't like that Zach is being a safe first pick, then maybe the problem isn't Zach. Maybe the problem is I pick a champion, Mord hard counter picks me, and now, oh wait, Mord also can't be QSS'd anymore. Maybe the problem isn't pro players trying to safe first pick champions. Maybe the problem is continuously pushing top lane to be the funny haha counter pick lane. I feel like at a certain point, Riot is so goddamn stubborn and stupid that we're like years into their goddamn moranacy. I'm going to call it that, their moranacy, where they just continuously and rapidly enforce a counterpick meta in top lane, and then anytime a champion can be safe picked, they just nerf them into the ground, because then people will try to safe pick that champion to avoid the counterpick meta. And I feel like this company has just reached absolute stupidity, where any single time the pro players are like, okay, maybe we can safe first pick this, Riot just comes in and they're just like, no, and it's just it's like, dude, I can't. It's like at a certain point this company is just so stupid. I don't even know, man. It's like their policy is so stupid. I just can't with this company, man. Oh boy, Zach was being safe first pick, so we need to nerf him. But why? Why do we need to nerf him? By their own admission, he's not overpowered. Because his laning phase is relatively uninteresting. Because people just want to safe first pick a champion and not be hard countered for once in their life. Oh, but not being hard countered is uninteresting. Yeah, my bad, Riot. So I'm sorry, we need the first 3 to 5 minutes to be super interesting, so that we can get hard countered and obliterated, then snowballed on for haha LCS big play. Amazing. Zeri, after all the crit item changes have shaken out, Zeri has emerged as one of the biggest beneficiaries of these changes. We're tapping her down, and her regular performance is still pretty healthy. We're feeling a lot more confident about her long-term balance state after all the changes, but she's just too strong right now. Hopefully you feel good about her long-term balance, because you spent every third patch on Zeri. I swear to God. Chad, I could quit League of Legends and all I could do is make up my own patch previews at this point. And what do? I literally just make them up. I'll just phone it in, right? We'll just Senna's passive is being changed. Zeri is being buffed and or nerfed depending on what we did last, right? Like, so it'll be we're buffing Zeri, then we're nerfing Zeri, then we're buffing Zeri, then we're nerfing Zeri, right? Literally just do that. Just do that, and I swear to God. Okay. So what are you doing? Zeri's losing 30 base HP. Doesn't really affect her scaling, but does affect her early game. Will that make her balanced? I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea, man. If you can get Zeri out of the laning phase, she's pretty goddamn overpowered. This also doesn't seem to have anything to do with Jinx, who's like ludicrously overtuned right now. I don't know, Riot just doesn't seem to want to fix the Jinx problem, but the Zeri problem we're fixing. Okay, on to the buffs. Final 14.8 change list, taking a bit of a different approach and talking more holistically role by role for this update, which is good. I mean, it's fine. Like we do different things and different patch previews, right? Like, okay, this time we'll talk role by role. That's fine. That's cool. You know, I like it. I appreciate it. The top meta is looking pretty varied with a mix of fighters, tanks, AP, any Mord enjoyers, and some ranged. We're not looking to mix this up too much as a result. I mean, are you trying to force Mord to be viable top to then say you have a lot of AP viable top? I mean, I guess that's one way to do it. I wouldn't certainly say that that's like good. I mean, Rumble is still giga overtuned, and then you have Mord, so okay. Tanks are a little bit on the weaker side. Yes, they are, but not Kusante, Udyr, Ornstein, etc. Or say, but Kusante, Udyr, Ornstein, etc. should be situationally viable. Is Scion really viable? Scion? I need to look this up. I don't. Do they know how bad Scion is doing in solo queue right now? Look, unless this champion like has a completely dominant pro play style that I'm not aware of, and I could not be aware of it, I don't think Scion's showing up. That dude gets curb stomped into a new dimension in solo queue, man. And certainly in the early game. And I don't think a champion who gets curb stomped in the early game is going to be that great of a pro play champion. But man, maybe I'm wrong. I doubt it, but maybe. Kusante, Udyr, Ornn should be situational viable. Tank items kind of suck and have no ability haste. The problem is tanks live longer than ever this season, but they don't do anything because they have no ability haste. They have lower damage. Now we've rebuffed Lord Dominic's regards. It's like tanks don't even scale as well because obviously tanks were too good late game, so we had to buff Lord Dominic's, right? Okay. With grub buffs and their spawn times offset, we're hoping to see a little less trading of objectives and increased focus of attention on top side. Sure, why not? You know, I love when I hate when I'm playing top lane. I don't have the jungle and support rotating into my lane every 2 seconds. Honestly, at this point, I think I would like less attention as a top laner. Can I get less attention? Because like, I swear to God, we've enforced this jungler and support just constantly destroy your lane thing. I feel less effective than ever this season because like you can't even get 2 seconds alone as a top laner before you're being obliterated. Champion diversity is pretty decent, I would say. I'd say it's decent. Like we look at, you know, champion diversity, it's pretty good right now. Got Aatrox and Renekton being the first picks, you know, got Darius is still. I'm amazed Darius hasn't been nerfed. Not because I don't think, not because I think he's like overpowered or anything. I just find it amazing that like he's just been there, like at a good win rate, good pick rate for like so many years. Like Aatrox and Renekton have worse pick rates, but like Darius is just like do. I don't know. There's Skarner being, yes, Skarner's gonna be overpowered as shit. Yone's back with the Infinity Edge changes. 49% means Yone's broken as shit. Yeah, not sure what to say other than that. Oh wow, Camille. Yeah, who could have suspected that much? I mean, champion diversity is good. It's fine. Champion diversity is fine. Jungle with rollout tank junglers, most drafts should be less prevalent. Huh? Oh. Huh? I guess they don't want tank junglers. So wait, tanks. They don't want tanks top line, which is pretty obvious because they nerfed all their items into the ground and haven't really done much for them. They don't want tanks in jungle. So are tanks just like only for bot lane now? Unless it's like one of those weird tanks that is somehow viable top lane. I don't know, dude. It just seems like Riot doesn't like tanks, which, okay. But then why even have the class? But then I guess the question is they don't even make new tanks. Kusante was like a tank assassin. Ornn was like 6 years ago. So, okay. With the rollout, most tank junglers, okay, we're looking to get a few more carrying junglers back into the mix, and AP junglers are lacking presence. We're targeting Sylas as an exciting flex, and hoping this doesn't come back to bite us. Man, I make fun of Riot doing hope-based balance, but here we are, and they're doing hope-based balance. I don't think that's really a good idea. Hope-based balance isn't a good idea. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but man, you really shouldn't do balance and then just hope it works out. Like what actual changes have you done? Can you give me something like factual? Can you give me something tangible that I can grasp, that I can hold on to and say, good. Because Sylas mid's looking pretty hot. And if Sylas mid is looking hot and Sylas jungle comes back, then he's going to be a flex pick. And if Sylas is a flex pick, particularly with how hard his ult can counter certain champions, then that will just make certain champions unable to be picked. I will never be able to pick, for example, Alistar, if I know, oh man, they haven't picked their top or mid, or sorry, you know, they've already picked their mid, they've already picked their jungle, but they haven't picked their top. So I pick Alistar, and oh wait, now he can flex to top, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, hope-based balance isn't a great idea. And they're literally using the word hope here, so okay. I've used this phrase a lot, that Riot uses hope-based balance, and okay. Graves, Jarvan, Olaf are also targeted to make an appearance, so Olaf is probably the most opportunistic of the bunch. So what are we doing here? Okay, so Sylas is getting his monster damage from 70% to 100%. So that's definitely going to be a thing. His Q doing full damage to the jungle will definitely make Q make Sylas absolutely curb stomp that jungle with giga damage, which is questionable. This is kind of what made him so broken in the past, because his Q actually does do a lot of damage. A lot of damage, mind you. If I go look this up for you guys, his Q does, in total, 110 to 410 plus 130% AP ratio. It doesn't have a health ratio, no, but that's a lot of damage, is all I'm trying to say here. So when that does full damage to the jungle, boy oh boy. So who is the other champion? We're looking at Graves, Jarvan, Olaf. So Jarvan is getting Jarvan the fourth for the father, the king. Okay, so that was confusing me. Passive current HP down from 6 to 7%. This will make it better than half of a Blade of the Ruined King now, which is nice. Decent little bit of a buff there. Jarvan certainly suffered a lot from, you know, being over nerfed into the ground when he was balanced. So now they buffed him back to when he was balanced, but now he lost his core items, so now he still sucks, so now we're buffing him again. Olaf is getting his Q monster damage from 5 to 25 to 5 to 45, which is certainly one way to keep him out of top lane, I suppose. Who is the other one they're doing? It's just Graves. Oh, right, Graves. Okay. Increased effective attack speed from items and runes towards reload time by 35%. Crit damage ratio for a pellet for 40 to 45%. Graves is an interesting champion because what Riot has done effectively is admit we have gone back on our word from not buffing jungle for a year to we have buffed jungle so much that one of the most powerful and picked junglers is now underpowered. And now since one of the most powerful and picked junglers is underpowered because we buffed every other jungler, now we're in this situation where we need to buff Graves. It's called leapfrogging. They did this for years, said they were going to stop doing it, and now they're doing it for years. Basically, in other words, Graves is up here, right? But we leapfrog a champion in front of him, then we leapfrog another champion in front of him. Now Graves needs to leapfrog forward in order to be balanced, okay? So when Graves starts leapfrogging forwards, this means jungle as a whole is now getting more powerful. Since the best top laner, or at the very least the most picked top laner for years now, has been Aatrox, top lane is not really increased in power. No, it is not. In fact, if I look at this, I mean, I know Aatrox got buffed like, geez, he got buffed 13.17. So he got buffed about half a year ago, but since then, he's been just the most picked top laner. So it's been a while, is what I'm trying to say, right? But when we look at jungle, we can see all these junglers who constantly leapfrog in front of each other. So, okay, now we have Diana up here. So now Graves is falling off. Oh no, he's only the 6th highest pick. So now we need to buff Graves. Great. You know what I mean? So it's just, we're leapfrogging back up again. And it's how it works. So if you constantly are buffing the same champions every many months, then you're leapfrogging too hard here. Mid, Azir's nerfs are targeted his ability to get through lane in tougher matchups to open up more champions. I'm assuming by this, and not by assuming, I mean, I'm just reading into it. I'm using the understanding of English language to say they want Azir to be more counterpickable, which sucks because counterpicks suck and are no fun for anyone to deal with. But okay, sure. I'm not even gonna. I already did my counterpick rant earlier, so I'm not gonna do another counterpick rant. The meta is pretty mage heavy, but opening Sylas as a flex is aimed at having him see more play with LeBlanc Akali buffs, looking to have a few more non-mages see play. So when Riot says non-mages, they mean champions like LeBlanc and Akali, because we've done this weird thing where LeBlanc and Akali are now considered assassins, not mages, which is weird to me personally, because like you wouldn't say we hope to see some non-bruisers viable top lane like Fiora and Aurelia. Like no one would say that. You wouldn't say we're hoping to see some non-tanks viable in support, right? Like Thresh, you know? It's interesting to me that we're basically like detaching champions to, I don't know. So LeBlanc and Akali buffs, not because they're underpowered, but because they just want them to be stronger. Okay, so Q base damage from 65 to 160. So Q goes up by damage 5. W goes down by cooldown 3 in the early game. That surely won't impact things. Akali base health up 30. Wow. Huh. So Akali can now stat check every motherfucker on the planet early game with her Q damage and her health and her passive and all that. LeBlanc just looks to be getting a giganormous buff, which is very interesting to me. Certainly trying to force LeBlanc here through pretty aggressively. Galio is still a bit under after all his changes, so bringing him a bit further up. He's a relatively low mastery champion, and we expect him to be able to live above 50% comfortably. So Galio is base movement speed up 5, which is pretty enormous for Galio. Considering how his W works and his whole kit works, it's pretty enormous. Q cooldown down from 12 to 7 to 11 to 7, so a bit stronger in the early game. Also a bit stronger if you max W, mind you. I did mention in my previous, you guys have been watching me video to video, I did mention that it did not seem like the Galio buffs were going to make up for the amount of nerfs they did. The nerfs, by the way, that were supposed to be buffs, so they giga nerfed the champion. They giga nerfed the champion thinking they were buffing him, tried to buff him back up, almost got him there. I would say he's probably, like, you could debate that, like, he's fine at this point. You could, like, make an argument that, like, whatever, he's fine. I don't think he's fine, and it's like, whatever, but, like, you know. So they're trying to bring him back up a little bit. Personally, I think the base movement speed would have been good enough. That's a pretty big buff for a champion like Galio. I don't think they really needed to go further than that. But the buff they did isn't really a big one. This is kind of, this is seemingly a buff they're doing just to do it, I guess is the right way to put it. They're just trying to be like, look, here's a buff. Here's 2 buffs. Now you have 2 buffs. Yay. So, okay. Kwai is a tad contentious, but he's a champion that we expected to balance around pro play. He's not seeing play broadly, so we're giving him a buff. He had a brief stint in popularity though, but rapidly declined. He's a unique non-hard carry mage, so should add some additional texture here. What are we doing to Kwai? Passive AP ratio from 30 to 35%, QQ AP ratio from 75 to 80%. I feel like for a champion that is, like, definitely not, in my opinion, undertuned at this point. Like, he's definitely fine. He's got, like, I'm not joking. For a champion that's supposed to have a high learning curve, like, the dude is currently, like, look at Masters Plus. He's a second pick champion with a 49.44% win rate, 18% ban rate. Like, this champion is not undertuned at all. This is what I'm talking about when I say MSI patches suck for your solo queue, because now Kwai will 100% be overpowered in solo queue. That's not even a debate. He will be. Numbers don't number wrong. If the champion is currently a bit overtuned and you buff him, now he's going to be a lot overtuned. just to try to force him into pro play. The reason he's not really that viable pro play is champions that he should be doing good into, or at the very least going even with, absolutely stomp him. He tries to go even with Azir, but he gets stomped because Azir can just combo kill him from full, right? He struggles into certain other champions that can abuse his low mobility. And overall, he just kind of isn't that great in pro play unless you second pick him or, you know, have the right situation, let's say. Now remember, his passive is every time he hits a champion, he procs his passive. So then the second ability does this damage. So the passive AP ratio buff is a very large buff, particularly to his team fighting, because this passive, I believe, is AoE, but I could be wrong on that. I'm like pretty sure it's AoE, but every time I think anything about Huai, I give myself the benefit that I could be wrong. No, it's definitely an explosion. No, it's definitely AoE. Okay, so this is AoE. So this is giving him a large AoE buff to his passive, which can proc on multiple Can it proc on multiple champions? Yeah, I think it can, right? So you can just multi-proc this multiple times and destroy teams, or even destroy two people if he does it right, you know. Then we're also buffing his QQ AP ratio, which is his most used ability. I think this is a very bad idea. I think they should definitely pull these changes. I don't think this is a very good idea at all. This is bad is bad. Much like the Graves changes, these should be pulled. Much like this Mordekaiser Q cooldown change, this should be pulled. I think this is a very bad idea. I know you guys keep, people watching this video are probably like, why does he keep saying everything is bad? Does he hate everything? Most MSI patches are absolutely terrible for solo queue. Most of them are absolutely terrible. Most of them are, let's throw shit at the wall and hope it improves the game. So this is very bad. But despite not being directly buffed, Zeri benefited from both her core items being buffed. So we're taking her down some amount to open up the meta more. Yeah, you buffed crit itemization when you said you didn't want to buff crit itemization. So you buffed something despite saying it was balanced. It might not have felt good, but it was balanced. Crit itemization was more balanced around 3-4 items, whereas other items were balanced around 1 to 2 items. So it felt bad having to get to 3 items. Was it weak? No, but it felt bad. Feels-based balancing. Okay, but anyway, it made certain champions that actually used crit items gig-enormously overpowered. Otherwise, we're seeing a good range of early, supportive, and late-oriented marksmen available. And just trying to open up a few more situational picks with Jhin, Kai'Sa, and Draven. Yeah, what now? What? Wait, isn't... Okay, so Jhin is doing pretty bad at the high ranks. How's he doing at, let's say, the mid ranks? At the mid ranks, he's doing decently. So what are we doing for Jhin? Oh boy, this is going to be a whole thing. Passive bonus movement speed on crit. 10 to 14%. That's interesting. QAD ratio up from 35 to 65 to 44 to 74%. That's interesting. Q base damage is going down by 1 to 44 to 144. Fine, funny number. That's not that big a deal, but I struggle to really... I don't know. Jin's fine. Kai'Sa's definitely not fine. Kai'Sa, QAD ratio up 5%. That's not really that big a deal, I guess. I think they're more so trying to just like, haha, remember Kai'Sa? But like, this champion is always balanced around 48%, and her pick rate is enormous. Like, her pick rate is massive. At the high ranks, her pick rate is 20%. The only reason it's not higher is because the two crit hillbillies are up here at number 1 and number 2. It's interesting that we're just totally ignoring Jinx and not nerfing her at all, despite her being one of the most dominant solo queue champions in the game right now. Sporting, if I look here, she's currently sporting the 7th, but if you consider Skarner, she's actually the 5th highest banned champion. Draven being the most banned champion in the game right now and getting buffed. Remember when I said, guys, remember when I said MSI patches suck for solo queue? So Draven is getting 5 more Q damage. So the most banned champion in the game in solo queue by 6% is getting a buff. The 5th most banned champion in solo queue is getting a buff. This sucks for solo queue. This is really bad. The 99.9999999% of the player base is going to have a decisively shittier game because you want to make MSI look cooler. Maybe you make Draven so overpowered that people pick him in pro play. Maybe you make Kai'Sa so broken that people go buy her KDA skin and her KDA 2 skin. It's just, I'm not really even, it's not even really that I'm like jaded. It's more so they're literally just doing this shit right in front of me, and then like, it's just right here. It's just right in front of me. Let's make the game shittier. And I'm like, please don't. And they're like, haha. Okay. Support. Finally, just a lonely Thresh buff to support meta. Thresh. Armor 2, MR growth up. For all the buffs I could have done for Thresh, this is probably the least toxic. But, yeah, Thresh is not exactly struggling right now. So it's just a funny, let's make Thresh overpowered so some people pick him in pro play, which is, wow, wonderful. I mean, I'm not being jaded. I'm not being pessimistic. They're just literally shitting on the game to make pro play maybe more interesting, which, boy, it's not really a like pro play isn't really representative of the game. I know MSI is a huge like advertisement for the game. I know it gets like streamed a lot and everybody looks at it and they go, yay, right? But like, I don't know, man. It like feels really shitty when you're deliberately pushing a shitty environment. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So let's look at all the changes. Did I miss any? Akali base HP 30, Draven base damage 5, Galio up, Graves, wonderful. Why? Wonderful. Jarvan, that's fine. I like Jarvan. Jhin, it's like whatever. Kai'Sa didn't need that. LeBlanc probably didn't need that, but whatever. Olaf probably didn't need that. Rise. Oh, we buffed Rise. W cooldown from 13 to 9 to 11 to 9. Then W slow from 35% to 50%. So it doesn't affect his root. Just so everyone's aware. Rise isn't even particularly amazing right now. I don't think allowing his W to slow like that is good for top lane. That doesn't really affect his mid lane because he always goes for the root in mid lane, but definitely in top lane that allows him to like W slow and then EQ as like a really hard poke into certain champions, or into most champions, really. Not all of them, but into most champions. I don't think that's particularly an amazing idea. I definitely think that it's not like Rise is overpowered right now. It's not like he's even good right now. So certainly they're trying to push Rise. I just think like that change is definitely meant more for top lane, which is weird because they're pushing it. They mean it for mid lane, but it's gonna do more in top lane. Does that make sense? So it's not gonna quite hit the mark on what they're trying to get. Okay. Sylas change is really bad. Thresh change is bad. Azir change is fine. Nerfing his W base damage and nerfing his health. But it's just like, the only reason they need to do this is because they did that stupid scaling on hit change on his W. Briar change is, he has our weekly Briar change. Zac change is stupid. Zeri change is good. Mordekaiser change, look, I'm not, like, I'm fine with the QSS change, but then don't buff his Q cooldown, right? Skarner change, like, if I'm reading these patch notes correctly, and often I am, I definitely think making his Q significantly faster will basically offset nerfing his damage anyway. And the champion is going to need a giga nerf anyway. Baron attacks. Damage increased to many Baron attacks. Cool. Awesome. Void Grub Camp. Spawn time from 5 minutes to 6 minutes. Okay. True DPS per stack from 6 to 8. Okay. That's decent. Spawn threshold. 5 stacks to 4 stacks. Okay. So you need 4 stacks to get the Voidling, which is okay. You know, I get it. Overall, I mean, it could pace the game better. I'll be positive. This one could pace the game better. I'll give you that. It actually could potentially. So there we go. There's the MSI patch. Most of these things I'm not happy about, but then again, I think we knew that an MSI patch wasn't really going to improve the game. Typically, MSI patches screw up the game super hard, and then they just try to do damage control after that to bring things back in. But then there's just like 2 months where the game sucks after MSI, and then it sucks after the Worlds patch. So, yay. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody. Tell me what you think in the comments. Leave a thing. Am I right to be this pessimistic? Am I on the mark? Are you going to enjoy these changes in pro play? Let's find out. So, see everybody. As always, have a great rest of your day.